I am at King's Cross Station, about to head up to Harrogate to help install an exhibition that I've been organising for this whole past year, so it's quite exciting. I'm quite nervous but also really excited to see it come together. If you watch my vlog regularly, you might know I did a trip up to Harrogate last year to this same gallery for an somewhat unrelated event. This exhibition is huge. We're kind of taking over the whole gallery space. It's really exciting. It's been loads of work, and so it's been interesting I've not done a project like this before, where you're working with a really sort of professional operation, where beyond a certain point I just got to hand it over to them to kind of pull everything together and to actually make everything that we'd been discussing happen. So what's exciting for me is, while I know sort of in theory what everything should be looking like and what it's going to look like, I haven't seen very much of it yet. And my train is in about 20 minutes, so I should probably go and look for my platform. I didn't film much on the stretch from London to York, as the train was packed and I seemed to have failed to book my usual window seat. When I changed onto the much smaller train from York to Harrogate, it was lovely and quiet. I left the station at Harrogate and headed for my hotel. So I've arrived in Harrogate and checked into my hotel, which is just across the street from the gallery. I can see it through the window, which is amazing. And I'm about to run over the street and see how everything's going over there with the installation. This exhibition project that we've been working on for so long, the small independent publisher that I work for, Avery Hill Publishing, we publish graphic novels. We started coming up with this idea for an exhibition when it was the company's 10th anniversary. We didn't quite get it done in time for that because various reasons. The gallery couldn't do it that year and all sorts of things, but it's finally happening, and it's a really big exhibition. It features 16 artists that are published by Avery Hill, some of my work's in there as well. But it's got, apart from the original art on display, it's got so much other stuff. It's just a sort of celebration of comic art and what Avery Hill does. It sort of aims to introduce people to comics and graphic novels for adults, people that might not know such things exist. We're always quite frustrated trying to sell our books, to find that a lot of people, particularly in this country, in the UK, don't really know that there are comics for adults, or that they're good. And that we feel like there's a lot of people who are into fine art, who are into reading, literature, fiction, who might enjoy graphic novels but just don't really know they exist. They think comics are sort of just for kids, or they're aware of superhero comics, but that's about it. And ours are kind of more on the literary side, so having a big gallery show is really exciting, and we're hoping to get lots of people interested in the art form that didn't previously know about it. So along with the original art on display, there are 2 videos which I've edited. One is a collection of snippets of interviews with the artists that are featured, and it's got a nice introduction by Ricky, who's the boss of Avery Hill, talking about just his company and why he does it. He's also written a lovely sort of introductory panel about how the company started. And so there's also some sort of early Avery Hill rarities on display, some of their early zines. They started out making these little kind of fanzines that are just stapled, and have worked up to kind of producing really quite large print runs of books. So that's an interesting history to sort of track in the show. I've also produced quite a lot of content that's about the sort of processes that go into making books like this, from the artist's point of view and from the publishing point of view. I've got a whole little section at the back where I've got sort of process stuff, as I call it, so like rough artwork, printers' proofs, sort of test prints that we do when we're producing the books, explanations of how certain artists go about making their books, rough cover designs through to finished designs. There's a whole illustrated flowchart that I made about the journey of a book from the initial kind of pitch to the publisher through to it being printed, which has been illustrated by the wonderful illustrator Krystyna Wyszynski, who's a local. She's based in Leeds, which is near a town near here. And she's done some amazing illustrated stuff and design work. She's done an incredible poster for the exhibition, which I'll show you at some point. And yeah, she's done some illustrated things. She did that, and she's also done a lovely sort of illustrated piece saying what comic art is and why it's special, and sort of how it works a little bit, how sequential art works. So hopefully that'll be there for me to see as well when I head over. Most of the artist sections are sort of framed, maybe 5 or 6 pages of their books, and where there's original art on paper that they've done, often with comic art, the artist does a certain amount of work on paper. They might then colour it digitally. So in those cases, we've printed the finished page next to the whatever they did on paper, so you can kind of see the before and after on that. Some people have completely finished art that's traditional media that's drawn on paper, so that's really nice to see. And some people have completely digital. But for 2 of the artists, we've done an interesting thing. We've done slightly different things. One of them had a fantastic collection of pages from the book that he had saved, at different points throughout their development. So there's a very rough sketch version, there's a finished line art, there's a colour rough, where testing colours, and then there's the finished colour art. So for his section, we've done these long panels with those pages printed where you can kind of track the progress on each page, which is really nice. And there's another section where it's a relatively short comic, it's about 30 pages or something, and we've printed the entire book across a big wall so that you can actually stand there and read the whole book. So I'm really excited to see that. Oh, there's all sorts of things as well. There's an interactive game that there's an American artist we work with whose work kind of has a lot to do with gaming and digital, the sort of digital age and the internet. And he's developed a really interesting kind of almost treasure hunty type game you can play as you go around the exhibition. There are hidden clues, and there's a whole backstory he developed about a group of missing students, and you can find clues, find their comics, and it kind of leads you on a little trail, which is really cool. I'm going to be working on that today, I think, figuring out where to put those clues. There's a leaflet that I worked with a brilliant organisation called the Comics Cultural Impact Collective, who are working sort of like we are to try and raise the profile of comics on the sort of UK's cultural landscape. And I worked with them on this amazing kind of leaflet, which we're hoping will kind of, if people come to this exhibition and want to find out more or get more into what other graphic novels are out there, it's aimed at that sort of thing of what you could do next, where you could go, what you could try. Can't wait to see how that's turned out. There's also a whole little side project. Krystyna and I, the illustrator I mentioned, who did loads of brilliant design and illustration stuff, we got to sort of curate a mini collection out of the Mercer Gallery's permanent collection. If anyone saw my last year's Harrogate video that I made, part of what I was doing was viewing the collection with her to kind of pick out some pieces. And the curator's idea for this was that if we had a small room that had a selection of pieces by Krystyna and I, where they were picked to sort of reflect possible connections between kind of traditional art and then the comic art that we're showing in the other parts of the gallery. So we were looking for pieces that had sort of narrative qualities, and we've made this little selection, and we had to write a little bit about each piece, about why we thought it was interesting to us as comic creators and artists, and what parallels we could see between those pieces and the sort of work that we make. So that's a really fun little side project that we've done as well. So there's so much to see, and I'm going to run over the road now because I can't wait. I'm back from my first day working the exhibition, quite tired. They took me out for dinner, for pizza, which was really nice. With Christina came along, and the curator that we've been working with, and also Reggie, who runs a local comic shop, Destination Venus, which I hope to pop into while I'm here. Yeah, really exciting. I didn't get to see absolutely everything, but it's coming along. There's a lot hanging on the walls already. It was just really exciting to see all the kind of design work and content stuff that we've come up with, to see it actually in the space. And the space is so much bigger than I remember from last year. It's absolutely huge. So everything's just, when you're used to, you've been preparing stuff on a little laptop screen, to see it all really large. Christina said the same as well about her poster image, which has been put onto big posters that people can buy, all sorts of merch. There are mugs, there are coasters, bags. I won't get the poster looks absolutely stunning. I won't get it out because it's huge and it's rolled up. It's kind of tightly packaged so I can get it home on the train. But yeah, maybe I'll edit it in later. So what I managed to get done today, there are 5 big glass display cases that for 3 of them, I've kind of designed the whole contents of what goes in them. They're kind of deep dives into 2 books, the processes behind 2 books. One of the books is a collaboration between an author, Paul Cornell, and the illustrator, Rachel Smith. And so I thought it'd be interesting to make some stuff just explaining that process of how the author and the illustrator might work together on a book. So I had all that stuff to put into a case, and I have one which is a deep dive into my first book, because I just had all the materials to hand, and Avery Hill's boss, Ricky, said to me, why don't you do something on your book, since it's going to be easy for you to just have all that stuff and be able to kind of get it ready without having to bother some of the other artists to send stuff over. So there's a case on that, and there's also a case I've made which is about sort of typical drawing and painting materials that people might use, and it's also got photos of the artist's workspaces. So the whole back room of the exhibition is sort of about artist processes and a little bit behind the scenes stuff. So I was working on that mostly. I had to arrange the cabinets, print out little labels to explain what everything is. There's another 2 cases that I was supposed to be working on, but a delivery that Ricky sent has not shown up, which is interesting. We're trying to track that down. I got to watch the video that I made kind of in the space, which was really, again, seeing it up large was really, really great, and it looks really good. The video I'm really proud of. You'll be able to see it on Avery Hill's YouTube channel probably, so I'll see if I can link to it with this video. But It's just little snippets from our Avery Hills podcast that we've made over the years and things, with all the featured artists talking about how they make their work. And it's just really nice to hear from each person, hear them speak and see their face in a lot of cases, and just get little glimpses. Everyone's process of making these things is so different. That's what's really interesting about this exhibition, is you can really appreciate that. And I think to be able to hear people talk about just different interesting aspects of their work, and then to go and look at it on the walls, it adds a whole dimension, I think. There's probably some bits of the exhibition I won't see until coming back up next month in November for the official sort of launch, which is tied to the Thought Bubble Festival, which is a massive comics festival that happens here every November. So I'm back up for that next month. And I probably, there's stuff that kind of isn't quite ready that I won't see until I show up for that, which is quite exciting. And one of the things that I'm quite scared about that I'll be doing when it officially launches during Thought Bubble next month is on the Saturday, the first day of the festival, I'm leading a guided tour of the exhibition for anyone who's attending the festival that wants to come and see that. So yeah, I'll just guess I'll be walking through and pointing stuff out to people and kind of explaining what the exhibition's all about. But luckily I won't be doing it on my own. Two of the artists will be with me, so when we get to their sections they can talk about their work. And there's another guided tour on the Sunday, which is led by Andy Oliver, who runs the UK's best kind of comics coverage website, Broken Frontier. He's a huge supporter of the sort of work that Avery Hill does, and all the sort of independent comics folk who put their own work out. He's a brilliant supporter of that. And because I'm not going to be around for the whole Thought Bubble weekend, he's going to lead the Sunday tour. So I can't wait for him to see the exhibition as well and sort of figure out what he wants to talk about. Yeah, I'm going to go to bed now. I've got until probably about 1:30. My train's at 2 tomorrow. So I've got the whole morning to figure out other stuff that I can help with. I'm hoping to film a bit more tomorrow. I was rushing around madly today. Yeah, I'll show you some more tomorrow. Things got very busy again, and before I knew it, I was heading off from my train. I had to make one final stop before I left the town, though. When I finished editing this vlog, I realised that in only about 5 days' time I would be back in Harrogate for the launch party, so I decided to hold on and film a little bit more over the launch weekend. So it was back on a train, back up north, for an even greyer and wetter couple of days. This time my hotel looked out over a lovely willow tree and the Royal Hall Theatre. I headed out into the rain to attend the private view, followed by the public launch party. In spite of the torrential rain, there were lots of people there and everyone seemed really enthusiastic, which was a relief. I also got to see the room with Christina and my permanent collection pics all set up, which hadn't been ready when I'd visited the month before, so that was really good to see. We left the launch night with amazing gift bags from Karen at the gallery, which was so nice. The next day after breakfast, I headed to the gallery again to give my guided tour, which went well, I think, in spite of my usual nerves at having to speak in front of people. Straight after that, I headed back to London on the train. We passed some flooding that confirmed just how heavy the rain had been the previous day.